Hello YouTube friends and fans, it's Matt Stirling here, and today I want to talk to you about a pretty cool topic, right? And it really relates to, for one, this is all about the scale, okay? And to screw the scale or not, right? I hear people say this all the time, screw the scale, ditch the scale, forget the scale, it's not about the numbers. I'm not in it for the numbers, and I'm not worried about the numbers. These are the things that I commonly hear from people. So you gotta remember, I'm in the gym business, I own a gym, I also own a CrossFit box, and I've been a trainer, for probably over 15 years, okay? And when it comes to this topic, it's so interesting for me now because I've been able to see it on the other side of it. So I'm going to talk to you today about fitness and business and how they relate, and maybe how you can start to change your mind and take your fitness, and deal with it in a different way, in a better way, perhaps in a more planned and strategic way. Depends how you think a little bit, sure, I get it. But I can tell you that not everybody is gonna be hardcore like myself, or maybe like you, but you're gonna have friends and you're gonna have family, no doubt, that are thinking to themselves, they start off with this big goal at the beginning of the year, and maybe they have a number, maybe they don't because they're afraid to face that number, and they say, I just wanna feel good, I just wanna be healthy, and so on. But this is where fitness, I find, relates to business. And for me, this really struck home when I started, some of my own ventures with the online world. And I found that, hey man, this is not easy. I'm missing some gaps here. And I really at first didn't know how to address it. But then I thought, well, how did I deal with competing and getting on stage and saying in 12 or 16 or 20 weeks from now, I'm going to be stepping on stage and I'm going to try and win the world championships, right? And I was able to do that more than once, 3 times in fact, and some of you may know that. But again, it's what I was able to do is say, hey man, like what did I do during those times to reach that kind of success? And how can I kind of translate that into my business, right? Well, at the end of the day, what it really came down to is that I had to face sometimes the ugly truth and the reality and look at the bottom line and say what's working and what's not. And there's points where you simply have to man up and face that, right? So if we take somebody that's in the fitness world, just imagine if they're saying, I don't want to look at the numbers, or I'm afraid of this or that, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that if you're 50, 75, 100, 200 pounds overweight, well, the number does matter. And that's where you're gonna have to buckle down and face the reality that, hey man, there's a real number here that I need to get down to, for sure, for health benefits, for optimal living. So you're gonna have to face those numbers. And so that's where I'm able to say, hey, with fitness and business, there's actually a lot of similarities, right? You have to be able to plan, and you have to be able to strategize, and you're gonna have to expect that, hey man, I'm gonna have a point in which maybe the business or my body is gonna reach a plateau, or we're gonna have a bad month or a bad day or a bad week in sales. So what are you gonna do about it? Well, that's the thing, is you have to be able to review, you have to be able to reflect, maybe you have to consult and perhaps confide with somebody that's in the business or in the gym, and they're going through what you're going through, right? So that's where I wanted to bring up this topic today, because I think there's so many people that start off with this hot plan, and maybe they have the tools or maybe they don't, but they're not able to simply reflect on, where the heck am I getting results or not? And that's what would happen if you started a business. If you started a business like you're trying to start your transformation, I think if you were to sit down with an accountant, they're going to tell you, and they should be telling you, this is exactly where you're at, this is what's working, these are the departments of what are bringing you in money or not. And this here at the end of the month is where you are at. Are you making money or not, right? And without that, you're gonna probably set yourself up for failure, because if there's something missing and you need to step it up, how are you gonna know if you're not measuring that, or somebody's not measuring it for you, right? So I do recommend that if you're afraid of the scale, or if you're afraid of some numbers, or if you're afraid of some type of biofeedback and all that kind of stuff, I think, you're gonna have to face it eventually, okay? And I think the idea here is to not be scared about it, but to actually turn that around and let it motivate you and let it drive you to find out, hey, how am I gonna get past this next hurdle? How am I going to get through today, and so on, right? So I have 3 things for you that I think that you can start to do each and every day that can help you translate all of your energy into results, all right? And not be afraid of looking at the reality of things. I would write on this whiteboard that I have kicking, but I need to put in a couple more quotes on here. So I'm going to read off my notes that I have aside here. Otherwise, I'd have them up here, right? So number 1, I think the key is to start your day off right? I met a couple of amazing people just a couple weeks ago in New Orleans. Craig Ballantyne, and he's got an awesome book, by the way, The Perfect Day Formula. And then also another gentleman by the name of Mike Whitfield, all right? So I'm wearing this guy's bracelet right now. It's Rise and Hustle. He's going to be coming out with a new book. I think it's going to be sometime this year. But anyways, the way that these guys think is pretty cool, and it works in the business world, for a lot of people. And it's simply get up, rise up and start the hustle early on. So whatever it is that you're doing, so I recommend that, you find out what is it in my day that I need to start off in the morning, that if I get that done, I'm going to be able to start just making a lot of momentum in the day, right? Get the hard stuff out of the way. And for me, that's not the working out. I don't have to worry about the motivation going downhill at, towards the end of my work day to do the working outside of it. For me, that's easy. For you, that may not be. But I realize that for me, to write articles and to do blogs and that kind of stuff, I'll easily procrastinate on it. So what do? I get up early, and that's what I actually start off with. And the reason being is because for me, that's where I need to put all my energy and my focus, right? So otherwise I start to kind of lose my motivation, and my drive to do so. And then, if I was to start off my day with working out, in fact, for me, it does the opposite. I start to procrastinate afterwards. I feel good. I've exerted myself. I feel, I don't feel like doing work after. So you have to know how to start off your day. So get up earlier than you normally would. I get up now at 5 a.m. and I just start getting right to the grind, right? So start off your day early, start it off right, okay? And if you get a chance, check out those guys' books. Again, I don't think Mike has his out yet, but you can look up The Perfect Day Formula and stay in tune with Mike. Great guys, I got some great information. Next to that is number 2 is to block your schedule. So this kind of deals with a little bit of, rising up early and getting up early and just starting what you need to do and what your most important things are so you can structure your day. But number 2, again, is block your schedule, right? So this for me was really, really powerful in 2016. I was able to say, I'm going to block my mornings. Nothing's going to change that. This is what I'm doing in those first 3 to 4 hours. I'm writing. I'm not going to be disturbed. I'm not going to answer any emails and so on, right? So, and then, I have my blocks throughout the day. When I even answer an email, I don't answer emails all day. I try and just block off a time, and then, so for you, how does that relate to you? Well, you have to ask yourself, when am I going to block out my workout time, right? So that's part of the strategy that we talked about when it comes to business and fitness. You have to say, how am I going to strategize this? How am I going to plan this? Well, you have to just say, this is when I'm working out. This is my blocked out time for that. Nothing's going to disturb that. So that's number 2, right? Block out your times. The next one is to plan for tomorrow. So, I find it actually pretty good if people know exactly what they're doing tomorrow. I know that sounds bad, but really most people don't even know what they're doing today, right? And that's where they run into issues with, oh, this came up or that came up. I wasn't able to get to the gym. I'm falling behind with this, and that. It's just poor planning. That's really what it comes down to. If you know what you're doing tomorrow, that's great. That's good. If you know what you're doing for this whole week, I think that is great. The most successful people that I've ran into, even when I was in New Orleans and these guys were, planning out their schedules and, their broadcast emails that they're sending out to their subscribers and trying to give them lots of value. These guys were literally 4 and 6 and 8 weeks ahead, and they knew exactly what they were going to be putting into their schedules and what they were going to be feeding their audience. So that is amazing planning, and that goes to show you that's why these guys were at this mastermind that I went to, and they were able to lift me up and say, hey, this is how we roll, this is how we do things, this is why we're successful, and this is why people are following us and doing what we do. So I thought, that makes sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. I get it. I've heard lots of successful people talk about that. I've read about that, but to see it in action was pretty cool. So I want you to try and do the same thing, plan for today, make today really successful, right? But also just simply plan for tomorrow. For a lot of people that are trying to do a transformation, I find that quite often it can be overwhelming, the whole process. And they're trying to say, well, how can I start off, just right? And they want to have this perfect scenario. Well, the perfect scenario is for a lot of people trying to have all these different things and they're trying to start so many things at once, right? I think that when you wake up tomorrow, just get through tomorrow and do it really, really well. And have a plan for it. Sure, have some food and meals prepared. Yes, know what you're going to be working out. Yes, but try not to implement everything all at once. That's where a lot of people run into some troubles. Okay, unless you're advanced and you're hardcore and I get that. I've been there. I've done that, and I it's some of that stuff is a norm to myself. But the reality is that most people, it can be overwhelming. All right, so don't try and plan, or think too far ahead about 90 days from now trying to, shed that 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds of fat. That's a buttload, man. Just worry about this week and what you're gonna be doing today and what you're gonna be doing tomorrow. And I think that just simplifies it as less overwhelming. All right. So anyways, as far as dishing the scale, like I started this whole thing off with, should you check into the scale? I think, yeah. Should you be obsessed with it? Probably not, but at least know where you're at and pay yourself the respect to be honest with yourself, right? And if you find that you're falling into some, a trap or some trouble or hitting, a plateau, there's nothing wrong with that. It's normal. The same thing happens in business. It's not always going to be perfect all the time. You're going to hit some roadblocks. So when you do check in with your consultant, with your trainer, with your online coach, and so on, then, just kind of face the music, man. And then by doing so, it's going to help you man up or woman up, right? And find some answers. So that's what it should be making you do. All right. So I want you to leave today, from this. I took a long time. I know it's 12 minutes. I like to talk a lot, but do those things. And I promise you're going to start to make some more headway. You're going to get a lot of traction and you're going to start moving forward, right? It's all about moving that dial. And even if you're just moving it, as Bedros Koulian said a few weeks ago, just 1 degree, right? Don't try and shift things like whole 5, 10, 15 degrees, even just 1 degree, because 1 degree, of changing the course over a long period of time can result in some huge gains or losses, depending on what you're trying to do. All right. So anyways, if you like this, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and so on and so forth. If you haven't checked in and subscribed to my channel yet, then of course, if you're liking what I got, then do so. And I will be back soon. And I can't wait to hear from you guys and some of the comments that you have. All right. Talk to you soon.